Good morning, everybody. It's Chris here. I'm up early in the morning. I couldn't sleep, and I really want to try again to make a message that will be clear and make sense, and that I don't know, that gets the point across of what I'm trying to describe here. And so, what I'm trying to describe here is what we need to do in order to react to this difficult situation we're in. The unfortunate thing that's happening is many of us are, the whole world is coming under a sort of an attack, you might say. You know, society is going to be locked down in a lot of ways, and not only that, but I mean, they're allowing, they're going to allow, and they're actually going to use suffering, like they're going to allow us to fall into a state of great need in order to create chaos in a lot of ways, and for people who aren't prepared for this, it's going to be really hard. And so what I'm trying to describe that we ought to be doing in order to survive this is we need to start coming together as a people. And actually, there's a lot of really smart people out there who are already talking about this. Honestly, like, you can look at James Corbett, who's talking about it, and Derek Rose, and there's other people as well who are already kind of coming around to this idea that we all need to come together and take care of each other. And I just want to emphasize that that is the main idea. It's what we need to do. And in fact, the unfortunate truth is that those of us who are seeing what's happening, we appear to comprise a fairly small minority. And so being a minority, we're going to we're not going to have a lot of strength to resist what's going on our own. And also, we won't be able to resist what's going on where we are, because we're all scattered about. Those of us who are aware of what's going on, we're all scattered about. And so how do you survive hard times? How do humans survive hard times? We have to come together, and we need to help each other. All for one and one for all. That kind of thing. And so what do I envision this looking like? Well, I mean, I think we're gonna have to form something like, well, a community, for one, and a community that's more than a community, that's like a family. Like, if you wouldn't let your brother starve, you would invite him into your house. If you wouldn't let your brother and his wife and his kids starve, you would invite them into your house. And so when people do start to starve, we're going to have to start taking care of each other. And so we have to form a community. And now you also have to understand that they're rolling out a police state, okay? And so just think about where will their strength lie. Their strength will lie in the cities, in the big cities, in the urban areas, and then they'll still have some strength in suburban areas. And so how do you survive? How do you escape that kind of tyranny as a community? You have to get out. You have to escape. So we're going to have to come together, and we're going to have to find places. Now, this is where another aspect of my message starts to become much more important. How does a community function properly? Well, a community, in order to function properly, first of all, people have to have a set of rules or a set of principles, guiding principles that they live by. And so I'm proposing that we have these sets of rules and that we agree, we come together and we live under a set of rules. And we work together and become a family, essentially, you know. I mean, we become brothers and sisters and become like one extended family, like cousins, aunts, uncles, you know, like, but we're one extended family, essentially. And so, you know, all right, so if you're just try and envision this picture for me. If they're rolling out a police state, and they're rolling out tyranny, and they're rolling out mandatory vaccinations, and they're rolling out all of these really kind of scary things, and it becomes, they start, you know, who knows if or when they start even going house to house in cities, you know, or they may do it a different way. They may just make it impossible to buy or sell. They'll just say, well, if you can't bring up your smartphone and show an app that demonstrates that you have received your vaccination, then you can't go into any stores. You know, you can't work. You know, so what do? Well, you have to get together with another group of people, and you all have to work together, and you have to farm, and some people have to go out, and they have to, you know, they may have to work temporary jobs for under-the-table money. And, you know, those groups of people who are a part of your community that can find those jobs, they go out and they do that, and maybe they bring home food and money, and they bring it back to the community. And where is the community at this time? Well, we're going to have to probably become something mobile. I guess that's one way of saying it. You know, I wish I could add this other aspect in, but it's like, it's something that's hard. So let's think about it, though. How do you do this? How do you start a mobile community that takes care of each other? But I mean, you have to get out of the cities, and you have to start seeking out other like-minded people of the same kind of spirit as you, and I like to think that I am part of this movement as well, as a movement of people who really love the world and our lives and each other, and we really care about everything. You know, I see the world and I think there's so much beauty in it, It's such a beautiful and abundant place. And there should be enough for everybody. There would be enough for everybody if we all took care of each other and took care of the planet. If we made those our number one priorities is to take care of each other and take care of the planet, then we could. The Earth is extremely abundant, but we've sort of, unfortunately, been, you might even say, enslaved by a system where we are ruled over, and a great deal of our, we have been made into serfs, essentially. We don't really own land. The banks own our land, and if we stop working and stop paying our bank, then they take away our house, and we don't have a place to live, and so we have to keep working. And, we don't own our cars, the bank owns our cars, and if we stop working, then we can't afford our car payments. We've all been essentially enslaved, and the people who have managed to gain control over the whole system, have managed to get the majority of us into a position where we're kind of helpless. And unfortunately, these same people who have done this, they also don't really take care of the earth. I mean, the earth is being polluted and destroyed, and they also are very violent. They are like very pro-war. They use violence to control most of the world. If you're in the United States, they use a pretty sophisticated police force and surveillance system in order to maintain order and control of the people. But in other countries around the world, they send their armies out, and pretty much if you're a country with a lot of oil or a lot of other natural resources, you can kind of bet that at some point in your history, our various, by our I mean the United States' various forces, which might be a direct military force, might also be CIA, and us just funding guerrilla forces, but you can pretty much bet that we have used the strength of our various agencies and our financial systems in order to essentially beat you into submission. And then we go in and we just extract. We take all of your natural resources. And the people who are doing this, there are people like this in every country, and some of these people have developed these weapons, these nuclear weapons, and they point them at each other all over the world, and they threaten each other and say, if you guys don't, if you guys come onto my territory, I'm going to blow up the whole world. And so, you've got the people who are ruling the world, they're polluting the earth, they're exploiting the masses, they are threatening the whole world with nuclear annihilation, and it's unfortunately a really bad situation. And so where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us really weak. We're separated. There are a few of us, and more every day, who are waking up to what's going on in the world, who see what's going on. But we're, like I said, we're mostly are all far apart. And so what do we and we're all far apart, we're all scattered, and unfortunately we're waking up at a time when it's right at the last minute, because what they're doing right now with these basically locking down the whole world, they're instituting a great reset of the global financial system and the global world order, really. And they're going to essentially bring in a new form of governance that will be much more strict, much more violent, and much more it'll be pretty much inescapable. You know, they'll track everyone wherever they are, whatever they're doing, who their contacts are, what they're watching on TV, what they're looking up on the internet, what they're talking about in the internet. And they will just be able to immediately react to any group of people who wants to try and do anything freedom related or anything that goes against their agenda. And so, you know, we're waking up at a time when this is happening, and our amount of time, the amount of time we have to react to this situation, is pretty limited. Luckily, there's a lot of great people out there talking about what's going on. I mean, I also really like Dr. Buttar. If you've ever watched what he has to say, he has a lot of really great stuff to say, and he seems to know what's going on. I like Christian from the Ice Age Farmer broadcast. He understands a lot of what's going on, and there's a lot of us out here who are talking about what's going on, and there's still a moment of freedom where the internet is not totally censored. In some countries, the internet is very censored, but in our country, the internet is still largely free, although the large tech companies are censoring their platforms. So now, you know, Facebook and YouTube and Twitter are not at all free. I mean, they're extremely censored platforms now, and you can't get a lot of information on them. Google is also extremely censored. It's difficult to search for things now. Wikipedia has been successfully infiltrated so that you can't even trust Wikipedia about anything that's politically charged in any way whatsoever, politically, or, you know, anything that's like damaging to this system of governance is largely infiltrated and controlled. But the internet is still there, and so you can still find information about things. You can use alternate search engines. You can track people on their websites instead of their social media platforms. You know, so what does that mean? That means that allows us a little bit of time yet to organize and to get out a message. And so I really, you know, these messages need to go out. We don't have a lot of time left before things get really bad, and so I'm just trying to, you know, hey, look, at this point I've got 22 subscribers. Thank you so much to those people who do subscribe to me. I really appreciate it. It's a great encouragement to me that 22 of you subscribe. If you can, if you're one of those 22 people, I don't know, do what you can to please try and help spread these messages as well. There's a lot of people who don't know what's happening in the world and don't realize that we all have a role to play, and that we all have work to do. The hardest times in the history of the human race are upon us right now. They're starting, and those of us who are waking up to what's going on, we're the ones who are going to be leading the way of what needs to happen, what we need to do. And there's a lot of great voices out there already leading the way, talking about this. But the big picture is that we need to start organizing as a community, because the only way, you know, that's how we survive as humans. Hard times, we come together as a community. I think there are some people who are like prepper minded, who have this idea that they can survive this type of thing all by themselves. And I feel like those people have not thought through the complexities of what a society provides them. You actually need a strong community. You need to be, boy, in order to withstand a long-term and concerted effort like we're going to be up against, we will need to have the strength of a people behind us. And so you really need to start forming communities. And how do you do that? Man, you're going to have to find places. There are places, and I I know this is true all over the United States. I suspect it's true the world over. And I would suggest that if you're in Australia, I know for a fact that it's true in Australia because I've heard a couple of people kind of not talk about this exact idea, but they have kind of just talked about sort of the landscape and of Australia. The point is there are places that are still hidden, that are like wildernessy, okay, and that are hidden. And in the United States, there's land that is, state owned and federally owned that people are technically allowed to camp on. You're allowed to camp for 2 months at a time. In my state, anyway, I think it's 2 months, 3 months. I think it's 60 days or something. You can camp on state land. And I'm pretty sure that I know for a fact that that similar laws apply to other states all over the country. And there's also private land. There are people who are good-hearted people, and if and so my point is there's hidden places where you can camp, and there's a way of living. There is a mobile way of living. Okay, now it's not going to be super convenient. It's not going to be like the funnest way to live, or the most comfortable necessarily. It might be pretty exciting, but it won't necessarily be the most, like fun way or comfortable way to live. We're kind of spoiled. We've lived in these nice climate controlled boxes, you might call them cages. We've lived in these nice climate controlled houses with electricity and heated plumbing and all this stuff, and lots of space, and it's been really nice. But there have been plenty of people throughout history who have survived with a lot in a lot simpler of a way. Okay, and so what can you do? Well, you can start a mobile community where you move around and you find these hidden places and you find other people. I mean, that's the thing, is you really need a group. It's not about the place, it's about the people. It's about finding people and finding a way to live together and coming together and saying, hey, we are united in our love for each other, our love for humanity, our love for the earth, and and we are going to try and live in a new way. Now, I started to go into this idea that there's rules, that if you're going to be a community, you'll have to abide by certain rules. And I think that this is important, that a community does need certain rules to live by. And this is where I am somewhat of a spiritual person, and I actually I do believe that there is a force, a creator of the universe, and I'll even go farther and say that I believe that this force, this creator of the universe, who has given us life and given us this world and made everything for us, I believe that this creator also speaks to us, and speaks to us inside of ourselves, in our hearts. We can hear. It's sort of like a spirit that leads us, and it's based in love and truth and peace, and this is like the spirit that guides us, okay? Love and peace and truth. And this is the Spirit of God, is the Spirit of love and the Spirit of peace and the Spirit of truth. And this is, this is the Spirit that has led many people over the years and has actually been leading humanity on a course out of enslavement, into greater peace and harmony, okay? And so I think actually if you look at history over a long time period, you actually see people coming out of a more violent way of living, of a more violent way of living is the best way to put it, where people would enslave each other. One, there was a time when slave masters were just violently controlling each other. They used whips and now they use they use propaganda to control us and enslave us more. But it used to be a lot more violent. The king just had an army, and anybody who didn't want to do what he said could be executed, and it was much more violent. And um, people controlled each other using intimidation tactics, and also um, you know like strong arm banditry was common. You'd get together a gang, and you would go around, and there were people who would literally get together, or get to throw together a gang and go around and steal, and steal, rape, just grab women, that they wanted, and take the money and the food from people who didn't have an army. And that was the way. And we've been led over the years away from that into a more system. And so if I believe that if you look at this spirit, this God, this creator who's been leading us this whole time, he's been leading us in a way of more harmony and love and peace. And so that's why, I think you can actually go through, and I'm a big fan of the prophets of God, and really all of them. There's unfortunately, to all, there's a lot of people who get really dogmatic and believe in their prophet, and it's their religion, and ours is the right one and all the other ones are the wrong one. And I really disagree strongly with that. I believe that if you look into all of these people who were prophets of God, they're all bringing us, they're bringing people into a way of living that's more harmonious. And their message starts out, and if you go way back, the message was just don't kill, don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, be honest, be kind, these things. And then you you get to Jesus, and he's love each other, take care of each other. Dude, take care of the poor, take care of the sick, take care of the weak, be just and kind, and don't be violent. If somebody's being violent, forgive them, and try to be peaceful. Be peaceful, loving, and kind people, okay? And so this is the spirit, and this is the spirit that we've been led in all along. And so, and you see it, you see so many religious people with the same message. You can look at Martin Luther King Jr. even, he was all about non-violent methods of bringing about a more peaceful way of living. Look at Gandhi, non-violent but very spiritual, loving, kind-hearted man. You just see this. Look at Muhammad. There's so many Americans who just totally don't understand what Muhammad had to say and what the Quran is all about. And they think it's all about violence because we're inundated. The news, the propaganda tells us that Islam is all about violence. But if you really, really study Islam, and there's a lot to study in Islam, I know, you can't even just read the Quran. The Quran is, in fact, it's almost not a good idea just to dive into the Quran. You have to study the Hadith and the history of what happened and the whole thing, and understand. You got to read the words of Muhammad alongside the Quran, which is so much. There's so much. But when you start reading that, he's all about, taking care of each other. I mean, same thing. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, be kind, take care of each other. All this stuff, the point is, all of the religions, in my mind, are all the same force, the same amazing creator who guides us And so I really want to set aside any division among any of us who believe in God, and just say we're all believers in God. We all believe in a very similar set of rules, that we shouldn't kill each other, that we should take care of each other, you know, that that it's important to be devoted to each other, and to be kind to each other, and to always do everything with love in your heart for each other. Okay? And so when I say that as a community we need to have a set of rules and a set of principles that we live by, this, I think, this force, this God, the Almighty, um, God has been giving us these rules all along. And and you can really see, like, that he's been teaching us ways to live together as a community, and he's been giving us a set of rules that we should follow in order to live together peacefully. In order to do this, we've got those hard commandments: don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't commit murder, don't kill. And then we have the other principles, the guiding principles of be just, and take care of each other, love your neighbor as yourself. That's what Jesus said. The most important thing is to love God. And I think that actually, if you just in a sense of being grateful, if you look around at the world, and just how beautiful the world is, and how great, like, we're just so lucky. And so love God, be so thankful for God. And then he said the second most important thing, though, is love each other. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay, so these are like guiding principles, that we should love each other and take care of each other. And I think there's also another principle of non-violence that's really important, that you should not do anything violently to other people. Now, there is, to me, an exception to this. I think if you see one person doing a violent thing to another person, an innocent person, like, let's start with like a child. If you see someone hurting a child, like, and you're able to stop that from happening, then I think there's like actually a legitimate good reason to, hey, stop that and step in and put your body in between the child and the violent person. That's okay. That's something that we have to accept, that it's even like a responsibility that you have. If you look around and you see people are doing violence against other people, then you have a responsibility, if you are able to. See, that this is an important actual principle that that's discussed a lot. You should do this if you are able, if it will help. There are situations where you'll see violence occurring and you're helpless to stop it. And if you get involved, it's just going to make things worse. You'll get killed and they'll get killed. Something like that. Then obviously, you have to be smart about it. But if you're in a position, to stop someone from doing violence to another innocent person, or just to stop two people doing violence, if you are able to do that, then yeah, of course you need to. But that's like, that's the only justifiable form of violence. It's not justifiable to use violence on an innocent person who's doing their own thing, who's making their own decisions for themselves and their family. And especially if they're not harming. If it's a group of people acting together, then there's no right for anybody to use violence against them. So anyway, I'm saying, that people do need to have rules to live by. A community has to have rules to live by. And I think my point is that all of us who would come together, who need to come together, we have these rules, and they're all pretty well spelled out for us, and we all know what they are, and they're principles of act with love, but we also have hard and fast rules: don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat, be just, be kind. And so, what am I saying here? I guess what I'm getting at is that we are a community. There's a group of us who all have this same heart of love, and we all look around at the world and see beauty in the world, and we we want to take care of the world, and we want to take care of each other, and we want to take care of our children, and we want the world to be a good and just and abundant place. And I'm suggesting that it's time for us to come together. It's time for us to come together as servants and as people who are grateful to God, and actually, be a community and be a special group. And so we come together and we start to come together, and we start to form a community, because the things that are about to happen will require us to have a community. And in a lot of ways, this is what these types of communities have started before. Originally, the church that was built around the disciples of Jesus Christ. That's what it was a community of people who took care of each other. You can actually, if you're a Christian, you should read the very beginning of the book of Acts. Or if you're not a Christian, read the beginning of the book of Acts and see what they talk about there. See what they talk about. They talk about how everybody shared everything. Everybody had everything in common. They ate together. They saw each other every day. They took care of each other. And if one new person came to the community, they brought them in and they treated them like a brother. And that's kind of what we're going to need to do right now, is we're going to need to take each other in and treat each other like brothers and sisters, and take care of each other. There's also in Islam, there's an idea. It's called the Ummah. The Ummah is kind of like it kind of directly is related to the word mother in Arabic. The Arabic word mother, Ummah. It's like it's kind of like family, but they use it to describe something very similar to the church. It's the family of believers, okay? And it's the family of people. And so when the Muslims were under a lot of persecution, it was the Ummah who they all turned to. They all came together as an Ummah, and they took care of each other, and they helped each other through the difficult times. And so what I'm suggesting is that in this time, we need to build our group. We need to build our Ummah, our family. We need to grow a family, and we need to start taking care of each other and getting ready. Because if you just look around, you can see that it is coming now. And so I want to just invite everybody to please start thinking of ways you can build this family, this church, this Ummah. Let's start getting together and joining together in love, and preparing for these times that are ahead. It's not going to be easy, and we're actually the lucky ones, because we're prepared ahead of time. And we have a duty, we actually have a responsibility to try and help as many people as we can to get them to safety. And so we need to start forming communities, and finding safe places, safe havens. That's the sort of the long view of what I'm discussing here, is that if we build a network, and you can look into like Derek Broze, he talks about the logistics of this a lot. Derek Broze, very, very smart man, also a spiritual man, but very smart man, and he understands the logistics of what it takes to start an underground community, and so you can look at him, you can look at James Corbett. He has so much material about the logistics of this. But you can look at what they have to say to kind of start thinking about how do you form an underground sort of a an off-grid network, an off-grid community, and 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 so he's got this idea of like intentional communities. It's not really his idea, but it's an idea that he is like pushing for. And I would say, in my mind, the intentional community idea is basically what we're going for, but we need like a fast-tracked version of that. Like, we need to, even if it's just a mobile intentional community, we need to start finding ways to set up, to just getting together into like groups. And I don't know, I'm not saying be like rash about it, but start thinking about how we can do this, How can we form a community? How can we set up safe havens? And in a lot of ways, I would encourage everyone, as I always do, to like, pray for help in doing this, and like that's the thing, is that in our spirits, we can like sense the spirit that moves through everything and through all of us. And so like, just be guided by your spirit, be guided by your heart, and be guided by principles of love and peace. An interesting side thing is there's just a lot of, it's like a really common like spiritual thing to like say peace, like in Christianity, Jesus always said, let the greeting among the believers be peace, and so like in a lot of churches they'll say peace be with you, and also with you, and then like in Islam, the greeting, actually in Arabic, the greeting assalamu alaikum means peace be with you, because in Arabic is like, it's pretty much the language of it is the language of Islam, because the Quran is in Arabic, and it's best if it's read in Arabic, anyway, it's recited in Arabic. So, but the interesting thing is that in Arabic, the word for like hello is peace be with you. That's how ubiquitous it is. So so among all Muslims also, peace be with you. And there's also just like, spiritual hippies who are always like peace, they always say peace, and so I just think like, let's let there be peace among all of us. Let's unite in peace and love, and let's prepare though, because we've got to just realize that this is happening. This is happening, and if we're not united, if we don't have a group of community, we'll just get picked apart. And I do encourage everyone, please, share my video. Please, feel free to look at my previous videos. Maybe they're kind of heavy. This one's a little lighter. It's lighter, saying that we, but this is more one of the lighter videos that I've made. But anyway, I guess that's everything I have to say for tonight. God be with all of you. Peace be with all of you. God bless you all, and I just hope everyone's okay out there. And please join with me, and please help me to get out this message, and let's grow together and be a people. Amen. God bless you.